they don't even know the game they're missing out on.
I know.
Like, I can't tell you how many coaches live and breathe by their sport, and they're playing with one arm behind their back. Like, the funny thing is they'll say the mental game's everything.
Yeah, but
never practice it in practice.
Right.
So how can you say that and not do something about it?
This is the Mental Metal Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission, help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your metal.
Welcome back, Metalheads. It's Coach Matt Thomann on the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm going to jump right into the interview today because I get a little bit long-winded today with today's guest, and there's a reason for that. His name is Brandon Beery. Brandon is a certified coach just like I am. He goes and works with teams, does a lot more on the running side than I am, but he is doing a job that's similar to mine. And I ran into him on social media. We hit it off. We started talking, and it's just two guys. And there's not a lot of people going to schools and doing the same things that we do, working with the mental stuff with these coaches and the teams and doing that. So you can tell in this interview, we both get excited about finding somebody else that does the same thing in the same way and has the same ideas. So really, as a coach, as a parent, as an athlete, listen to the things that we give. We're giving away a lot of good tools here that we kind of, we go into schools and pay for. People pay us to do and things like this. So take some notes, pay attention to the things that we see, the things that we promote, the things that we see progress in a lot of these teams and athletes, and, take what you want from it. But there's some good stuff here, all on the mental aspects and the mental skill sets for your team. So jump into it. It's Brandon Beery is my guest, and I hope you enjoy it. I certainly do.
Your athlete probably spends hours working on the specific skill set they need for their sport, and they probably spend hours in the weight room building their body. But how much time do they spend intentionally training their mind? Well, building mindset is the key to bridging the gap between the skills that we see and game execution. Well, Mental Metal Coaching provides individual programs that can help your athlete develop this third and crucial skill set. And welcome back to the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm here with my guest today, Brandon Beery. Brandon, I'm excited to have you on.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm just, this is interesting because we got connected because I think somebody shared a tweet of mine, and then you shared it, and we're like, and you said, hey, I think that you said something, I think Matt and I would get along and have a lot to talk about. And that was my cue to just say, well, then if we're going to talk about it, we're going to make a podcast about it because I think that, the first thing is you and I kind of work in the same spaces. I do a lot of coaches. I do a lot of coaching of coaches. You do the same. It's all, you do a lot with athletes in the running stuff. I know that you're into the feed the cats and that thing, but then you've crossed over into the mental space a little bit, which is the space that I work in. And I think that the original thing is some people might be like, well, we might compete a little bit, but I don't think there's enough. That might be true, but I think that there aren't enough people in this space. This needs to be something that, I think when you grow, I grow, when I grow, you grow, and we make, because it makes a difference. It helps. It's what sports needs.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see any competitors. We're just playing the same game a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no,
I-
when I saw you have a podcast, I saw you post on Twitter, I was like, I love it, mental metal. Okay, tell me more. And then I saw your
Yeah.
clip with Brad Dixon. I thought, oh, 5 minutes in, I knew you're my guy.
Yeah.
We speak the same language. We just go about it a different way.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things I saw, you filled this form out, and one of the things I saw, you were talking about mental. I just loved your answer here because this is like, I feel like it's something I'm preaching, right?
Mhm.
That mental toughness is not just one. It's not just one thing. It's a toolkit that you can grow, and it needs to be something that you practice no difference than you would if it's a free throw or a PAT, and that is like I feel like I say this till I'm blue in the face, that people just expect mental toughness to just happen on its own, and it should be the other way around. That should be the first thing that we're developing, and then the other parts can fall into place.
Yeah.
So speak to that for a minute.
Yeah. I'll give a little bit of background too.
I would love it. I would love it.
That'll probably make things easier.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up an athlete. I grew up a sick kid. So I had asthma and allergies growing up. I'd miss like 40 days of school a year. So my first taste of competition was esports. So I
Okay.
played video games for money at like 2006 at like 12 years old. So there's no physical aspect in Halo.
No, none whatsoever.
But there's a ton that I learned from Halo that then I applied to football and kicking, which is totally mental. And then from football, then I ran track. So that's the full through line for me in my background is I didn't learn these lessons from sport. I learned it from video games. Then I applied it to sport and then business and career and later on.
So you literally went at it from the backwards, like the other way around.
Oh yeah.
That is, I have to know how Halo leads to kicking though.
You get really good at doing one thing and you pick it apart and you get really good at another thing and you pick it apart and you figure out how to get better. It's the exact same.
Yeah. When was that decision that you're like, hey, I think I want to try kicking?
5th grade. And again, it was, I grew up right in Notre Dame's backyard. So dad always had on like
Okay.
Notre Dame or Colts games or Bears games. Like that was a constant. And I could just crush a ball. And it's like, oh, that's something. and from there, then that was kind of my start in athletics was kicking to then running and track. And then track was something I could get better at. And it wasn't up to somebody else or someone else's performance. It was my performance, what I could do to get better. It was under my control.
What's the lesson then from Halo? Like, walk me through this, because I there's a lot of people that are going to tune out at this point. They're like, this has nothing to do with it. And I'm open-minded enough to be like, no, I get it. But I understand how some people are going to be like, I don't need to listen to some sick kid that played Halo because that has nothing to do with,
Well, have you ever heard of Kobe?
Yeah.
You ever heard of the Black Mamba?
Yeah.
So my first taste of this mental coaching thing was from the coach who made the Black Mamba, Todd Herman. So I never ran a college race as Brandon Beery because Brandon Beery was a sick kid. I had an alter ego that I ran as instead. So do you see how it's not a physical game at all? Because I would lose that every time.
Yeah.
Like,
what's the alter? You got to give me the alter ego.
Oh, it was. I didn't even figure it out. I had pieces of it, and then one day my coach called me B. I was like, oh, that's it. It wasn't even my full name; it was just the first letter B. And so I ran every race then at Trine as B, not Brandon, because Brandon was hurt all the time, sick all the time.
Yeah.
But B was the same thing as like my Twitter handle or my gamer tag is Zen Dominator. Like that was feared online, but I had to bring that into track, and that was B.
And that's not an easy transition because the Halo stuff is almost all mental, but there's at least a physical. There's no physical aspect of the Halo, but there is a physical aspect of kicking and running. So how do you make that transferable?
So it goes back to that toolkit, right? Like, I see mental skills as tools that we can develop. Like, mental toughness isn't just one thing. Being good at playing Halo isn't just one thing. You have to learn the game's ins and outs, communication, teamwork, where you're supposed to be at what time, and then, drill things like crazy. Same thing for kicking. It's 3 steps back and 2 to the side. But where are you looking? How's your breathing? Are your steps good? How's your contact with the football? And then you take it to track. What's your block setup? What are your first 5 steps? Where's your head? What are you thinking? Where's your breathing? Like, the parallels are exact. But it's skills that you can break down and improve upon. And then for mental toughness, it's the same thing. It's not just, run some kid until they puke. That's when I knew you were my guy. Because
that's the old school. That's the thing, right?
Like Tony Holler has a saying, we're going to turn you into dragons because we'll be dragging your ass through the grass. Like,
yeah, right.
I survived programs. I didn't thrive in them. And you have to come up with mental games when you don't have it physically. And so build focus, build perseverance, build resilience. And then I love the concept of an evidence list. Like, literally write down proof. This is who I am and what I've done.
Oh, it's one of my. It's have you read The Confident Mind? It's I can't remember the name. There's a psychologist, and the book is called The Confident Mind. And one of his exercises, which I have stolen, shamelessly stolen, is he does something called the top 10 list, and it's one of my favorite exercises to do with athletes. I make them write down their top 10 list, and then tell me what each of those 10 things tells them about themselves, or what it tells others about them. And it is amazing to me, the kids, they do this and they're like, I never think about this like this. I never, because I think a lot of times we see it as arrogance and hubris, and you have to have a little bit of that. Like, you have to at least have recognition of your own skills and your abilities. Otherwise you're not like standing on one progress to get the next progress. So I love that exercise.
As a sprinter, be confident. Like Coach Waters would literally say, be a sprinter. But what does that actually mean? Like, I hate coach speak of vague terminology, like attention to detail and sense of urgency. I don't know if you've read any of my beef of that.
I saw that. It's because it's not saying anything.
No, it's meaningless.
Yeah.
And instead, flip it around. Be super descriptive. Say exactly what you want and what you mean. So if you say attention to detail, what are we focusing on? What's the priority? Oh, you want this goal? Well, that has to be the only goal we're working towards that. And we work backwards from there to today, and how are we going to get that goal? Like, there can be a real clear plan of how to get something. But you have to communicate it. You have to say it. You can't just say, we want to win a championship. So does everybody else.
Yes.
What are you going to do? Like, what does your practice look like? What do you do before practice? Like, and have the conversation. Don't just like dream it up and then hope your athletes are going to like get it through osmosis or the airwaves or something. Like, they don't know what you're thinking. They just want to please you. So be so clear and like, say what's good. Say what's bad. Have a good role model. Show them video. Like, give them as many exposures as possible. Because, like, my dad and sister are dyslexic. I'm not. So there's always a communication barrier between us.
Yeah.
And I've learned that the way that I pick up something is going to be through text, reading. Like, and then I got it. I'll remember it. But for them, no shot. So give as many exposures as you can to your athletes or your team so they can get what you really mean and then go and do it like you want them to. But all that's very intentional and clear. It's not an accident. It's not a gamble. It's not a wish.
Well, that's the word I like. I love the word being intentional. Like, be intentional with what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. And I love what you're talking about. Like, having what you focus on is key, because I think a lot of times what happens is we make these goals, and like you said, everybody wants to win a championship. Everybody wants to win every game. Okay. Well, what is that? It's not that's not the goal every day in practice. Because a lot of times you run into a lot of kids, right? And you ask, what do you want to do? What do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I want to play in the NBA. Okay.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. I love that you have that goal, but that can't be our goal in practice every day, because that's way too generic and way too pie in the sky. It needs to be, well, today we're focusing on one little controllable thing that is going to get us to the next step, to maybe get to the next step that 10 years down the road, maybe we get a chance to get there. And I know sometimes that can be boring and kids, but I think that's what it has to be. You have to have that focus on a controllable, and that again needs to be well communicated and well understood by everybody that you want to reach that.
Yeah. Right. And the bit on the boring bit, again, the background's in games. So Trenton, who's the head coach at Altamont High School for track and field, who we work together really closely, we're sickos with this now, where we're turning things into games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was working with their middle school cross country team. And we said, middle schoolers get really good really fast. Middle schoolers get really good really fast. And that's the game that we play now. We put that belief in their head.
Yeah.
Is it true? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's
middle school. This team got faster than ever because middle schoolers get really good really fast.
Yeah, it's a very positive expectation, but it's not just a positive expectation that you're just making it up. You're actually then putting them in through drills and things like that, where they will see some progress, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. It's that evidence list again. When you have proof now, and I think that leans into a huge problem I have with a lot of athletes and coaches, is they don't stop and celebrate what they do well. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's again, it's that arrogance thing, is like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. It's not big, like, oh, I don't want to be. No, stop and recognize what you've done well, so that your brain helps you understand that, no, I did this. I focused on this controllable thing. We got this progress, and then the cycle can repeat. And but you have to have that recognition, and you have to have that. Well, it's gratitude is what it is, even if it's for yourself.
Yeah. How important is it to reflect and see where you've been?
Yeah.
And do you want to keep going that direction, or do you need to change directions and change the trend? Like, I'll use another example from Trenton. And the spring we had won a sectional in the conference title in track. So the highest of highs. And we roll in the cross country season, and it's not going as well, because they want to repeat and they're better at track.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a pivot point in the season where, do we crush these kids and their spirits in cross country season, or is each kid treated like a project for the next track season? And so it's a come to Jesus moment of a hard conversation of, guys, crossing it this year, but we're going to be loaded and ready for track season. And so they're ranked in the state. They just were at top times last weekend. They did great. They're rolling into outdoor season. They had their first outdoor meet Monday. So, but that's a choice. And we have the choice. If things aren't going the way we want, we can do something different. We don't have to just suffer and say, that's it. I have no control. This is all I got. And it's just going to happen to me. Like you're floating down a river getting hit by every tree and log.
I always, I was thinking about this just today, and I was talking about how when you what your focus does, if you're focusing on the wrong thing, or if you're focusing on things are going poorly, mm-hmm. It's also a place of high anxiety. Mm-hmm. It's a place of it brings up a lot of bad emotions, and a lot of it can be fixed by just changing what you focus on. Well, you realize, I'm focusing on something I can't control. You're focusing on how bad the situation is. Well, change your focus to something you can do. Well, even if that is, like you said, we know that this season isn't going well, but we're focusing on what this is doing for us positively in the future. And it's just, again, it's that little mental, it's not even a mental trick, but it's a mental thing where if you just
I mean, if you just do nothing but focus on how bad a situation is, you're going to get really good at focusing on and noticing things that are bad. That is
Absolutely.
and that becomes what you're really good at, is picking out problems and
Yeah.
not solutions.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, we really jumped right into it, but I want to get into a little bit about how you made this transition
Mhm.
from being an athlete, and just how you started writing articles online and how you got into what you do now. Because I see I get on your Twitter and I check some stuff, and I mean, you started in the space of injuries quite a bit, and
Yeah.
really questioning some of the oldest, longest, like the whole Rice method. Everybody knows the Rice method. And before I read your stuff, I'd started to hear that, okay, this isn't the new research is like, this isn't the best way. Rice is not
Yeah.
necessarily the best way. And I'm interesting how just your type of thought process on how you started to question everything like that and write about it.
Yeah. So I was the model rehab athlete. Through my career, I had torn both hamstrings, had stress fractures in my shins, tore a plantar fascia in a meet. That was real fun.
Just awful.
I've done a video too, so you can just see like the grimace in my face as it happens 50 meters in. So that was really lovely. I went through every terrible injury besides like knee pain and like Achilles.
Well,
And
but most of yours sound like they're the stress injuries more than anything. Just to throw that out there. Like they're overuse injuries is what they are, right?
Well, that's a component of it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Didn't understand the impact of lifestyle stress when I was in college. So I thought I could outwork this. I thought I could out rehab this. I had a full freezer full of ice bags. Like, I was there the hour before practice. I was there after. I did all the things I was supposed to do, and I still got hurt. I still was in a ton of pain. So that wasn't working. And it was after, my junior year, my grandfather had died, and I'd gotten sick, and I'd basically hung it up because I was so beaten down and broken. And so rolling into my senior year, then I started coaching more, and I'd worked on a project called Run and Charge, which was just, hey, what about sleep? What about stress? Maybe if you don't sleep 6 hours, you shouldn't go run a max velocity workout and sprint as hard as you can. It's not a good strategy for staying healthy.
Right.
If you're super stressed, like you break up with your girlfriend, you bombed a chemistry test, and you got financial worries at home, that's not a day to do a max lift. You're not going to be successful. And so at the time, it was just like a business competition for an app to say, hey, do you run today or not? And it was a simple stoplight system.
Yeah.
Green is go. You're good to go. Go run. Have a good workout. Red is bad. Go sleep. Go take a nap. Take care of your brain and body. Like, you working out harder is not going to be the difference maker here. You're just going to get hurt and sick.
Right.
And that's why I found out I would get sick the same exact day in championship season to the day. Like, I went to the health annex and they're like, you were here last year the same day. I was like, oh yeah, because testing and indoor conference. So of course I'm sick. But that's looking backwards, not knowing what I know now.
How much of that, so being a college kid, like how much of your stuff was anecdotal and how much of it was like you did some research around stuff?
I was a psycho with research.
Were you?
Yeah. We had access to PubMed and everything, so I was fanatical. And that's really where Twitter came in too, because I had access to the brightest minds from their phone. Like, I had no reason for people to follow me like I did, but I didn't write anything personally on Twitter until about 2022. I just shared everybody else's good stuff. And then after I'd taken enough lumps and had some experience, then I started sharing, there's value behind this. People need to hear these stories and know there is a different way.
Well, I think that's interesting even at a college kid, you're probably, if you're fanatical about research, you're finding out that there's a lot of research out there that definitely goes against the conventional wisdom.
Yeah,
so to speak.
The guy who made rice recanted it. He's like, God, don't do this.
But that's stuck. It's stuck. It's the guaranteed first thing that somebody's going to do when they twist an ankle on a basketball court. It's like, hey, get some ice on it, get it elevated, and all these things. And I know it's everybody does it.
Yeah. So that's a perfect story to bring up. And I just talked to Dustin Fink about it beforehand. So he's the athletic trainer at Mount Zion. And they have two absolutely stud athletes who had high ankle sprains. And so we got them through it and got them rehabbed way faster because they did not ice. They did not do the normal thing. We got them moving as much as possible, pain-free. They weren't booted up and crutching around. And one of them's at University of Illinois right now, and they just tweeted out he made a crazy catch.
Mm-hmm.
They made it to a state championship game when a high ankle sprain is not an easy thing to come back from, let alone less than 6 weeks.
Right.
And then, of course, what do? We stack competitive advantages. So we had these mental games to play. We played visualization. We had little tiny workers work on the injury site when they go to bed. Like we were just stacking nugget of gold, nugget of gold, nugget of gold. And these two studs got to play healthy in a state championship game.
I love what you're saying, but when we're
Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they can still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great, they're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Metal Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website, get started on the journey to a more confident, successful athlete with Mental Metal Coaching. Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness, using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Metal Coaching.
And these two studs got to play healthy in a state championship game.
I love what you're saying, but when you start talking about visualization and seeing about your body doing these things and these little work, like I know we lose people. I know we do. And I'm telling you, and there's a lot of research behind it, but the biggest thing I can tell you about the connection between our mind and what we think and its ability to heal the body and vice versa is that we know a whole lot less than we think we do.
Yeah.
It is, the connection is unbelievably strong.
Yeah.
And like I know it sounds so cheesy, but positive thoughts make a difference in physical recovery.
Yes.
I mean, and there is research out there too. It's not like it's just you and I saying it.
No, well, that's the core of my system, right? And I can say it like it's a spine. You have a single goal, your single outcome. You have performance goals, which are checkpoints or benchmarks to hit. You have processes, which are the tasks you work on every day to make that performance inevitable, to make that outcome inevitable. So that's the goal setting. And then from a thought to a belief to an action or behavior to a result. That's all in one line, the way that I think about life. Every good thing in my life in the last 10, 15 years has come from that system.
Yeah.
And that's athletic achievement, academic, personal business. Like, that's the through line.
Yeah, there's some research by, I don't know if you've read him, a guy named Albert Bandura. He's a Canadian psychologist. You should check him out. It's fantastic stuff. And he talks about how belief in your ability to change your life or change anything sets you down this path of, if you think you can do something about it, you're more likely to do that thing. And if you're more likely to do that thing, you're more likely to have success. And if you have more success, then you have more positive emotional well-being. And then you believe you can do more. And it's this unbelievably powerful cycle. But it all goes back to that idea of focus. If you're not focusing on things if you're focusing on things you have no control over, you're not going to believe you can do anything. But if you can focus on things you can control, even if that is something as simple as visualization of you being healed.
Yeah.
That might be all you have at some point, right?
Yeah.
But if you can at least focus on that and start to believe on it, we start that cycle. And it's extremely powerful. We see it all the time. If you think you're going to get injured, you're going to get injured. If you think you're not going to be healed, you're not going to be healed. And it's an amazing, the mind is unbelievably powerful in that. Mm-hmm. And it's also, getting back to what we said earlier, it's a very untapped resource when it should be the first thing we're doing.
It's a skill. Like,
yes,
knowing how to visualize is a skill. And it goes back to the coach speak. You have to be specific on what you're visualizing and how. If you just say, go picture something of success, it's like, okay. What does that look like? I don't know. And you've mentioned kind of locus of control is what you've been dancing.
Absolutely.
About, right? So
yes,
if you have an internal locus of control, which is,
yes,
I can do something about it, versus an external, which is the world is acting on me. Right.
Yeah.
So I grew up with parents who ran marathons. My mom had her best marathon for the Chicago Marathon and her best half marathon as well in 2003. So when she goes and gets her blood pressure taken, she thinks of the feeling of passing people at that half marathon because she knows it's going to reduce her blood pressure because we've drilled that skill.
Yeah.
And so that's something simple. But panic and anxiety is also a skill issue.
Yes.
I know there's medicine. I'm not talking the extremes. I'm talking about low level, controllable,
yes,
kind of average athletic anxiety, right? So would you rather have a plan before you get anxious at a meet? Or would you rather just suffer the consequences be as they may, and your best athlete is now in the fetal position crying because they're spiraling?
Yeah.
Like, that's a choice. Let's do something about it beforehand. Let's practice it out and have a protocol that they can use and say, oh, when my hands start to get sweaty, oh, when my heartbeat starts to get a little wild, I hit that red button on the escalator and I don't go up the spiral again.
Yes.
Who wouldn't want that?
I know, it's amazing. So I had a client once, and she's a middle distance runner, great runner. And she was having a session. We were having a coaching session one day, and she said, so I was in 7th hour study hall. I had a big meet that night. And she said, I was starting to think about it. And she goes, I don't know what happened, coach. My alarm on my phone, on my wristwatch went off and told me that I needed to calm down. And she goes, I was just sitting there. But she said, but I realized I was thinking about the meet. And I said, and I just lit up, and I'm like, you realize that's not how I was like, is that how you want to feel and how you want to be? And she's like, no, I want to be the opposite. I'm like, okay. That got into that got in. I got through to her so strongly because she realized
if I can trigger my brain that way, I can trigger my brain the other way. And there are people listening to this now that know that realize like, oh, my watch does that all the time whenever I'm thinking about this. Yeah, that's not what we want. We can be the opposite. But there you go. It takes that visualization. It takes that focus. It takes that locus of control. But it's all doable. I love to talk to people about just how cool how neuroplasticity is. Like how it changes. Like you can change how your brain reacts in stressful situations. But the good news is that it's possible. The bad news is it takes effort and work and consistency to be able to happen. It's no different than like if I want to go to a weight room and get stronger, I don't do it in one session. I do it over time, and we can get better. But we're talking the same language.
We are.
It's really cool. I just don't, man, it bothers me that not a lot of people employ this, because I think it's such a winning attitude for coaches.
It's a level of awareness they don't have.
Yeah.
They simply don't know it exists. Because if they knew, then like when her heart rate starts going high from her watch, my thought goes, what's the alternative?
Right.
Like knowing you have a choice right there is mind-blowing to someone.
Yes.
And
it's huge. And there it goes back to that locus of control. It's like, look, I can do something about that.
Yeah. You ever heard of the game show problem?
Lay it on me, maybe.
There's 3 doors. Behind 2 of them are a goat. Behind one of them is a sports car.
Yeah.
And when people kind of get tunnel vision, they just think that there's one door at this end and one door behind us, and that's it. They never see the third door. And I think all the time there's another door. There's another option. Someone knows something I don't. Someone has figured this out already. I'm not the first person to deal with this. Like, I just got to find what they did. And that's third door thinking. Like, yeah, behind 2 of those, there's a goat. But behind the other one's a sports car. And there's some fun math behind it where it's like shows it and you always choose the next door. And that's the joke. You always choose that third option.
Right.
Like, you're going to feel those physical symptoms. That's probably unavoidable. But what you do after that fact, after you're aware of it and notice it, that's where the magic is. Like, that's the opportunity to choose that third door and say, I don't need to freak out about this. I know who I am. I got my list of who I am. This is what I've been. How many practices? How many times have I run this race? This is who I am. I go and perform.
It's interesting because I talk to clients a lot of times about the difference between the feelings that we have for anxiety and the feelings that we have for the feelings that we get for excitement and the feelings that we get for anxiety.
They're so close.
They're so close. And it can also, it almost becomes a choice on what you believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. You'll be more likely to be calm, confident, whatever. If you feel like it's anxiety, then you're more likely to worry about making mistakes, worry about what's going wrong. And they're so close. But that can literally be a choice on how you want to perceive those feelings you're having in your body. I think the worst thing you can do is which is what a lot of people do, is just ignore all those feelings. It's the worst, right? Because they're going to bottle up and they're not going to go to a great place if you do that.
Yeah. I remember I saw the comic Pearls Before Swine, and I had this idea of cynicism and stoicism in my head for a long time. I was like, oh, so to be a good athlete, you got to be stone cold and just robotic. What a mistake. Like, I think tapping into, we have multiple states, right? You have a physical state, you have an emotional state, you have a mental state. Like, they all play off of one another. So some people like to get jacked up before events. They listen to loud music, crazy, having a Red Bull, whatever. Other people, that's too much. They need to calm it down, block it out, slow it down. and that's how they get good. And other people are in the middle, right? But you can use one to influence the other to get where you need to be on demand. Like, use the tools around you, not just saying, all right, well, I hope this one works well. I hope this is going to be good enough.
You're bringing up a pet peeve of mine is I know that there's coaches out there that, like, let's say you're on a bus trip to a big game, and it'll be like, I want everybody just thinking about the game, don't listen to music, no talking, whatever. And I'm like, well, for maybe a fourth of those kids, maybe that's the right thing, but for the rest, it's I mean, it's probably maybe the worst thing you should do, right? And that's why I like the individuality of some of the stuff that I do, is we be able to figure out what's best for you, what works for you, how does it work. Once you start to understand yourself a little bit better and what works for you, what doesn't, where your deficiencies are, where your skills are, man, you can start to apply some of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like block periodization for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, if I see someone give 3x12 in a workout, I say, congrats, like, you have a cookie cutter workout.
Mm-hmm.
And what you described on the bus of everybody has to do the same thing. So 20% of your athletes going to be primed and ready to perform, and that's what you're betting your championship on? Like, why would they not all have their own individual mental warm-up? Why would they not do what gets them in the right state to perform? Do you want your team at their best, or do you want them mediocre? Like, that comes from the top. That's not just an athlete choice thing.
Yeah, and again, it's an awareness thing.
Exactly.
Well, and a lot. Well, because when you're talking about, it's funny when you're talking about the third door, stuff like that. There's a lot of coaches. There's one door, and it's the way I was coached. That's probably the most prevalent. It's like, we're just going to coach like I was coached, and that's it. And I'll do that. I'll just coach always, every year, the same.
Yeah. Yeah. No, obviously, no room for growth. Like, they'll grow out of their anxiety.
No. And
I don't know. I obviously am process driven, and I care about improving. And I know that there's a process of iteration to get better cycle after cycle. So I can't stand to see wasted potential because you're just doing the same loop over and over again and hoping it's going to be different. But we're not going to change anything. But we hope it's better next time. There's a better way.
There is. Talk to me about one of my favorite topics whenever we're talking about mentality, because you and I are talking about some really positive things, and how to focus that. But failure is a big part of sports. It's 50% of it or more, probably more, right? When I'm saying failure is win-loss, but how do you make failure a positive, or how do you figure failure into mentality?
Are you in an environment where it's acceptable to fail? I've heard, especially with middle school coaches lately, there's a lot of like shutdowns and perfectionism happening.
It's a huge. I do a lot of individual athlete coaching, and it's an issue. Yeah,
and I think one of it's expectation setting.
Yeah,
and then the other half is, okay, what are we going to learn and take away from it? So number one is, what's your expectation? Like, think of your Olympic or professional athletes. They miss. They make mistakes. They have bad days too. Even on their best day, they're not 100%. And on the flip side, you're trying to be, you're human. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes by design. So having an environment where it's not just okay and normal to fail, but we're going to learn, because that's how you get better. What are you going to tweak and try next time? What would you want it to look like? You didn't like the way your results were this time. What did you want it to be? Is that even possible right now? And then from there, all right, let's lay it out. What'd you do well? What went wrong? What are we going to fix? How are we going to fix it? It's clarity first, because I was very hard on myself as an athlete.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, a lot of good athletes are. That's just the way it goes. You were probably hard on yourself playing Halo.
Yeah. But at Trine, I was not very. I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have because of the expectations of being a leader. So instead of focusing on my own performance, I was focusing on my own performance plus the team's. And instead of just focusing on myself and getting better and doing what I needed to do, things got cloudy. And that's something I notice a lot in captains, where they'll accept responsibility for something they didn't do.
They didn't do.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with them. But because they're in a leadership position, they feel like, oh, that's on me. I'll fix it.
Well, they take the responsibility for the failure.
Yeah.
Because they're not giving an environment where it's okay to fail. But a lot of times they're just taking that. They're just acting in a way that the environment that the coach puts on too sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, a lot of time the athlete sometimes does it to themselves more than a coach ever will. Yeah. Usually that's the case, right? A lot of the athletes are.
I don't think I ever had a conversation with my head coach that was like, "It's your fault that this kid was screwing up."
Right? We do it to ourselves.
I remember
as I started to say that, I'm like, no, that's back. Like, we just do it to ourselves, don't we?
There's one specific conversation I had my freshman year. I'm like, what are they doing? And he's like, they just need to make it to spring break. I said, what are you talking about? They just got to make it to spring break. They'll be fine. And I was a freshman. I didn't know any better. I was trying to lead. But he was right. They just need to blow off some steam, and they're being stupid college kids for 2 weeks. And back to your original question, though, about failure. What's the tolerance? Like, do you accept mistakes out of an opportunity to improve? Or is every little mistake failing some invisible, impossible standard?
Right.
And there's a difference there. And that goes back to, how do you communicate what your standards are? How do you communicate what a good mistake is? There's times where you're going to take a risk as a player, and that's the right call, and it doesn't work out in your favor. You did everything right, and you still don't get the result you want. You failed, but you did everything you could have. And I will say that, though, this will be my little bit on games. I'll say Halo. It could be Call of Duty or Rocket League. You get so many reps.
Yes.
That you can't get physically. I can sit there and hit a ball the same time 1,000 times, and I will not get tired. But if I were to go and kick the same ball 1,000 times, my leg would fall off.
Right.
And that's where mental reps, the edges in video games, that then we can apply to physical sport when you have the practice to say, okay, what do I want to have happen step by step? What am I intentional and focused on?
Well, that's why, that's why visualization is so cool. And that's another thing that I think people don't get and don't understand, that like, now you have to have the muscle memory, right? You can't just, like, if I've never done a dive, like a back tuck, whatever, I'm not sure I can go visualize it and maybe pull it off, right? Like, there has to be some muscle memory there. There has to be. But I think once you get that muscle memory, the visualization, your brain doesn't know the difference between you doing it, thinking it, and actually doing it. As far as getting reps. And that I know that is an underutilized skill for coaches. For running plays, for the skills, for everything.
I think it could work. It starts with imagining what would it feel like.
Right. No, I think,
that's the first. And then the other way is, we can play with mirror neurons. They work. That's why I like role modeling. Like, see what it looks like at an Olympic level. Like, I would watch block starts not just a bowl. But I was a white short kid, so Jeremy Warner, 400-meter runner, I stole his block starts. Like, that was it. On repeat, I'd watch his highlight film. So then when I did block starts, they looked the exact same. So I hadn't done it yet. Like, you can do it before, but it's better after you've done it at least once.
Right. Right.
And then you can have just loop for the number of reps.
Oh, I read again, he does visualization in that book, The Confident Mind. You should read it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
He talks about it and he does that. And I've started employing it in my own life. I practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Awesome.
I go to class. We do a
Yes.
move, and I am in bed like before I go to bed, and I play it on loop as I go to bed, and it's amazing to me. It really makes me mad that I didn't know this stuff before, because I'm like, oh, this is like, it is so good. And when I start doing the visualization stuff with the athletes that I work with, they just love it. It does more than just you do it well. It takes away so much anxiety over it.
Well, because you've done it before.
Because you've done it before.
So this will be fun for the next move that you learn.
Yeah.
It's not just through your eyes. It's also from a third person point of view.
Oh, yeah.
It's also from the opponent's point of view of, I hate to be in this position. This is not good. And then you can go through the feelings you're feeling as you're going through the move of, I'm getting locked up. I'm here. I've sealed it. It's over.
Yeah.
It's perspective of different points of view.
Oh, perspectives
even
are
VR.
Yeah.
Like that's back to those two football players. Luckily, their semi-state game and their state game were in the same stadium. But if you're going someplace for the first time, look up on Google Maps. They're on some VR and get used to the location. So it's not your first time being there. Like, know where the bathroom is, know where the field is, know what the color of the track looks like. Make it as normal to your body and your nervous system as possible. This is just
I do that.
Another day.
I do that same thing with athletes and on the visualization. And it's like just every advantage you can give yourself mentally, positively, mentally, just an advantage is, I agree. It's why wouldn't you be doing this?
I'm totally about stacking the deck in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go into every situation like you got loaded dice. So how can I load the dice here? When even something simple, like if you're a coach and you have a ton of parents who are going to ask questions, have a map of where to park. Have the secret parking spot listed. Have the bathroom or the course meet, like where your team's going to be and the color of jerseys.
Well, because what you're doing there is like, we've all had those days or those meets or those games that didn't go well, and you can track it back to the fact that somebody forgot their shoes. Oh. Right?
They missed something. And we knock them off, right?
Well, if you're not very well trained in the mental part, it can really throw you off. But if you can help your athletes, you help yourself, like just to remove those roadblocks, it's really helpful. Again, stacking the deck. But there you go. But there are always going to be things you have to handle, like adversity that shows up. But you might as well remove what you can. Yeah,
I mean, if 5 minutes of preparation saves you 50 questions, are you going to be a happier coach? If 5 minutes of preparation means you're a happier athlete at the start of whatever competition and ready to go and not worried about, I have the wrong jersey, I have to hurry and be frantic, and then I'm knocked out of my emotional state because my physical state's not good, and then everything's coming crashing on me, and then we've tipped over.
Yeah. Because it can get there. Yeah, like I said, it can get there really quick.
Yeah.
So let's what's the man? How do we kind of bring this all together, Brandon? What's the if we're having we're taking a moment here and we're intentionally creating the clip, right? Like what's the like if we had to if we boil this down, like what's the advice?
I was thinking of that the other day when we first talked on Twitter of what do I want your audience to know? And I have an ABCs of coaching, which is awareness, belief, clarity, and skills. If they got some awareness and clarity, their life's going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they take nothing else away from this, that they have options and to be intentional and clear about what you're doing, that's a win. You will go into every situation differently than before. And you'll know, I can make a different choice. You do that again and again and again, what's going to happen? You'll get better. You'll make better choices. You'll have more information. You'll be more aware. And that becomes a game. You start looking for Easter eggs of how do I get better? But I care most that they're aware and that they have clarity.
Yeah.
Everything else we can build. We can build up belief. We can build skills.
Yeah,
But know
I
those
agree.
two things first.
I think you're right. Awareness is huge, because I think that awareness, it requires you to actually stop and think, learn things about yourself, learn about what you want, stuff like this. And I think that that's a lot of times when we talk about the old school coaching, that was where it stopped. We didn't do the awareness, right? That seems a little bit woo woo. That seems a little bit new age type stuff. So from the perspective you and I are talking, they never even get to the first step.
Yeah, they don't even know the game they're missing out on.
I know.
Like, I can't tell you how many coaches live and breathe by their sport. And they're playing with one arm behind their back. Like, the funny thing is they'll say the mental game's everything.
Yeah, but
never practice it in practice.
Right.
So how can you say that and not do something about it?
I used to think, so it's an old thing with basketball. Basketball players used to never get the weight room.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to mess up your shot.
Right.
Now you look at basketball players. You look at like Houston,
Alan Bishop.
They're shooting 42%. Yeah, Alan Bishop. My son loves Alan Bishop. He just loves him. He is, so Houston, you see these guys. They're jacked. Phenomenal shape. They got 3 guys shooting 42% from the arc. Okay, so they're doing something wrong. So I think everybody kind of understands, okay, we were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We were wrong. We need to lift. And I like to say that, like, there's 3 skill sets that people need to have to do well. They need the skill set for their sport, the physical skills. And I think we're just getting into the cusp of people understanding, okay, you really need to practice that 3rd skill set, the mental skill set.
Yes.
Like, it was always just given, I'll just break them down and run them into the ground and they'll get tougher. And I'm all for doing things that are hard when you know that's why you're doing it. When you say, hey, we're going to do something really hard today. It's supposed to be hard because it helps us get better. Now, we don't want to do that before a big meet or a big game.
Right.
But at some point, it's okay, right? But at least but again, you have awareness around it, why you're doing what you're doing, and that's different. But I just love that you're saying that it's I think we're starting to see a difference. We're starting to make a difference, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm happy to see aware coaches.
Yeah.
And you can see it clear as day. You see it in the way they run their teams. You can see it the way they communicate. You can see it on Twitter. Like, it's there. It's the way they talk.
Well, and there's 2 things. One, they're starting to see that it actually shows up in the win-loss column.
Oh yeah.
Which is great. But it's also helping. We didn't even touch on the fact that some of this is so necessary because we're having a lot of athletes now that are struggling with a lot of mental health issues in the sport. And when they get out of the sport, and this directly combats those things.
Yeah. I imagine the difference of a kid having a tool set or toolkit before they go into the biggest test of their life. They calm themselves down. They perform the best they could. Or they don't even make it to testing day because they spiraled the night before.
Yeah.
and have a mental health crisis, and we lose out on the greatest joys of the life, and they're gone over a test. And to me, that's preventable.
Yes.
If they have the toolkit. So why would it not just be the standard to give everybody the toolkit?
I agree. I know. I had a kid come in one day. We had a session, and he was like, "Hey," because I got some stuff going on at school. He goes, I know we do sports, but we did an exercise once about focusing on what we can control and what we can't. Can we do that exercise for my test?" And I'm like, the kid's got it.
Yeah.
Kid's got it. I'm like,
Yeah.
one, you don't probably need me at this point for that because you got it. But I'm like, absolutely. Like, and it's when they see those things and they start to have that awareness around themselves and how they can do those things. It's like, man, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, it's
I
a
don't care if
lifelong
you-
thing too.
Yeah.
You know, they learn it in elementary school. They apply it in tests in middle school. You know, the first big project, the first big test. Then they go to high school where the stakes are raised. They have a big speech or they're trying to win a scholarship. Then they go to that first big job.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same skill. But how different is it when they've had 10, 20, 30, 40 reps with it and can pull at it anytime they need it? Like, that's mental toughness. Not running someone until they compute. Not taking someone to the pain cave and saying, survive the suffering. Good luck.
Yeah.
No, like, you said something in the Brad Dixon thing, or your Brad Dixon interview, where you talked about it's an obligation of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
It's a responsibility of coaches to give the tool for someone to succeed. It's the mental game is still the game. We have an obligation to teach.
There's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of responsibility, and right or wrong. I mean, there's a lot more anxiety in kids society now than ever. And
Yes.
and we can, and I know that that's partly because of social media and some other things. But if you're a coach and you're walking around complaining about social media, okay, it's not going anywhere. Right? It is what it is. The toothpaste is out of the tube. What are you going to do about it? If we're just walking around complaining about how bad it is, you're no different than the kid that's complaining about the hard practice. It's so do something about it. And coaches are in a great position to be able to do that. And I do think it's man, you hate to put it on. So I used to be an educator. I used to be a coach. So I know it's not necessarily fair. I hate putting the words, it's your moral obligation to do it, but you should at least understand that you're in a great opportunity to do that. You should want to do that.
Well, we reframe it, right?
Yeah.
It's because I can already hear their objections. We don't have the time. I can't get them to do this right anyway. They don't listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you want them to shoot better free throws? Do you want them to hit that 3 in that clutch moment? Do you want them to run through a brick wall for you? Okay. So we're going to practice those skills, right? If you want those outcomes, we need to practice those mental skills too. And you just do it at the same time. It doesn't have to take away from what you're doing. You sneak it in.
It does.
Along with the physical.
Well, but even that, it's coaches will say, well, I just don't have the time. And I find these things to be a time saver, not a time waster. Like if you can gather your kids together before practice and have a moment of, even if it is meditation and some breathing to calm and do stuff like that, they're so much more focused. Everything and if you're being aware about what your goals are and everybody's focused on it, you're more likely to reach there than they don't even know what the practice plan is. They're just running around doing what you say, and they don't even know what the goal is. Well, you might get it, you might not. But
do you know about RPR?
Yeah, the rest and recovery, all that stuff.
Reflexive performance reset.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of if you take 10 belly breaths, do zone 1 of RPR.
Yep.
And then your warm-up's cut in half. Like instead of a 30-minute warm-up, you can do it in 15 because, we're ready to go. Our body and nervous system's clocked. We're ready.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mental and a physical skill, you know?
Absolutely. Well, your kids come to you a lot of times after practice or after school, where they've been in school, taking tests, hanging out with friends, arguing with boys and girlfriends and boyfriends, they're not locked in, and the belly breathing attacks the head, attacks the physical. It's the reset button, and
Exactly.
it's so useful. And what I always say is, coaches will be like, well, my guys are going to feel it like it's awkward, and they're going to laugh. Yeah, of course they are. They'll get over it. They'll get over it. It's kind of like it's awkward the first time you learn how to shoot a left-handed layup. It's awkward. You'll get over it. You'll get better at it.
Well, and they'll feel better.
And
That's
and
the competitive advantage.
that's the thing, right?
Like, oh,
it is.
Oh, I'm stronger. Oh, that hamstring doesn't hurt anymore. Oh, whatever. I'll do whatever. You mean I don't have to get hurt anymore? You mean I don't have to get concussion? There's another way? Well, let me do that. I don't want to do that. We're not going to static stretch anymore. We're going to do something that helps our body. And it's that constant game of, how can we reframe this? How can we do the right thing for them and tag on the belief? Like, we know propaganda works. We might as well make it positive.
It does. And it's I hate to use the idea of manipulation or propaganda, but it's because it's not that, because you usually know, that there's research behind it, and it's right. So it's you can also tell them why you're doing it. You don't have to just So,
well, one last thing, we joke about Trenton he's an elementary school PE teacher at Ultimate.
Okay.
And then he works with middle school for cross, and then high school for cross and track. And so we say, if he's worked with these kids for 6 years, they have a doctorate in his program.
Yeah.
So what are you putting in that doctorate? Like, what skills do you want those kids to have by the time they graduate? And it's the same thing. Like, how many beliefs do we want them to have? Do we want them to have negative self-talk and spiral down at the smallest inconvenience? Or do we want resilient athletes who believe in themselves, have the tools to get them where they want to go, and accomplish big things?
Yeah, because
I know which one I want.
Because if you're not intentionally figuring out, like you said, when you talk about a doctorate, you were talking about a curriculum, right? If you're not intentionally developing your curriculum, and there's no curriculum on mindset, the human mind doesn't gravitate towards the things that we're doing. It gravitates the other way.
Yeah.
Right. So if you are not, that's the thing. If you're not building these positive mental tools, they're learning negative mindsets.
Yeah.
Just because that's the way we are. That's the way we're. Yeah. I like the way you're reframing that, Brandon. I mean, eventually, some point we got to stop this because people will get tired of listening to us. But I mean, I could talk on this stuff forever because it's just nice. It's great to run into somebody who's thinking like me, doing the same things, because it's not done enough. And I would love to get to the point where it's like you just want to be so busy with people knocking your door down wanting this because they understand it, that you have to figure out other ways to do it, right? Yeah. Because I'm fairly busy now, but you get what I'm like. I want this to be, competitors are starting to be like, oh, this is a great spot to get in here because this is a great thing for our athletes. And that's so, yeah.
It should be the standard.
Yeah.
Like, this is, I mean, I joke about competitive advantage, but it's true. You stack enough of these together, you have different. I've changed Altamont's, the whole community, because of one track coach.
Mm-hmm.
Which then led
well,
to
success will do that. Success does that, right?
People which then led to Trent working with the basketball or the baseball coach. So it's infectious when you start to see one or two good things happen, then one or two good teams performance happens, to then everybody gets elevated. And then now this is the normal. This is the expectation. We perform at this level.
It's funny. This is not me. I'm looking at some of the basketball teams that I'd worked with over the years. And then as basketball season kind of wound down, I took stock of the teams that I've worked with, and I'm not saying it, I'm not taking credit for it, but I was amazed. Like, we've got teams in sectionals that are in state there, and I'm like, at least they were smart. At least I didn't mess anything worse. I know I didn't make it worse because these teams are being very successful, and I'm like, there's got to be something to it. There's something to it, and success is going to help develop that, and I'm just excited for the trajectory that this sort of mental coaching is going on.
Yeah.
So
there's a better way. Let's go find it, and let's go put it into practice.
It's a healthier way.
It's more fun this way.
It's definitely more fun. It's definitely more fun.
We know what the alternative was. That's the biggest thing for me too. I know what it looks like the old traditional way. That's what I learned. That's what I grew up with.
Yeah. So, all right, Brandon, we're well far beyond time. Brandon, it's been fantastic talking to you. I will definitely stay in touch with you, and
awesome.
And we will definitely do that. But I can't thank you enough for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Oh, you bet. You bet. Thanks, Brandon.
Your athlete probably spends hours working on the specific skill set they need for their sport. And they probably spend hours in the weight room building their body. But how much time do they spend intentionally training their mind? Well, building mindset is the key to bridging the gap between the skills that we see and game execution. Well, Mental Metal Coaching provides individual programs that can help your athlete develop this third and crucial skill set.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that interview. I loved it. Just so many good things that we talked about on the mental side, about building that confidence, even preventing injuries or healing from injuries, and how you can use the mind with the body to do that. A lot of stuff on just challenging the status quo and doing research and figuring out how to do things differently and better, not just doing it the same way that it's always been done. It's one of my pet peeves is when somebody who's always done it this way. It's the worst excuse you would have you can give for doing something. A lot on visualizations and how you do those mental reps and just so many tools that we use with the athletes and the teams that we work on, Brandon and I. And it was really good to run into somebody that does that. Join in, look into it, see what you want, but know that I've really that part of my business has really started to take off. I work with a lot of teams now, going into schools, working with football, basketball, volleyball, all these teams, and going in and working on all of these teams and working on these mental skills. And it's so much fun. I love doing it. I love seeing the progress. And we mentioned it in the interview about how, well, kids might think it's awkward and things might be weird. That's just incorrect. That's not fair to say. It's correct for about 5 minutes. And after that, and the kids realize what you're trying to do for them and how you're trying to help them and how it can help them, that goes away. I went into a school for the first time, a football program, a bunch of tough football players. And by the end of the first session, and I'm talking about this stuff and how it can help them and how I can help them. By the end, it's like every kid came in back and like shook my hand afterward and said, "Thank you so much for being here. We love this stuff and we want to keep doing it." And that's powerful to me. That's why I keep doing what I'm doing. So if you have interest in that and you want to look that for your team or for your individual or whomever, get a hold of me. I'd love to talk to you about how it works, how you can see this progress. And Brandon talked about in the interview is like, if you're not doing specific mental exercises with your team, you're playing, he said, playing with one hand behind your back. And I agree with him. It is there. There's some low hanging fruit right there that can improve your team, your athletes, your program, your culture, all those things. And you're just not even trying. It's not because it's just not been the norm. And I think that if you start finding ways to do that, you're going to see the benefit, and it's so useful. So hit me up. I'd love to help and see how I can help. Just send me an email and we'll get together and we'll talk, see what we can do. I'd really appreciate it. So thanks again so much for tuning in. Remember, like, share, subscribe, refer to people. Like, the business has started to grow because I know of people like you that have listened that do this and talk about the work that I'm doing and where I'm coming from. And the more I can hear my name out there and about mental metal, the more kids I can help, the more athletes I can help, the more coaches I can help. And that's why I do what I do. So keep it up.
and I appreciate it. But for now, this has been the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and always remember to forge your metal. Thanks for listening to the Mental Metal Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Metal Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Metal Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your metal.